Well, hello, everybody, and thank you very much for tuning into Radio Entrepreneurs. Keep sending us notes and connecting with me on LinkedIn. We try to stay on top of what's going on in this new economy, keeping everybody informed as the majority of us are continuing to work and reposition our companies. This is all about change. That's been my career. So let's get into it. But remember, if you missed this segment or want to see other segments, you can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and Stitcher. Wow, that's like my guest host is omnipresent, and that's the Marc Z from Marc Z Legal Staffing. Welcome back, Marc.
Thanks, Jeff. Great to be here. Very excited to, we've got some amazing guests, and we've got the best talent that has the best content, and I'm appreciative to be part of it.
Well, if we call Marc Z omnipresent, some people might say that's a virus that we have to find no cure for. And our next guest is Jason Chan, returning guest, a litigator and founder of the law offices of Jason Chan. And Jason, you're going to tell us a little bit about fraud and a fraud case, reality.
That's right. That's right. Most fraud cases aren't that interesting, but I had a particular one where I was in the prosecutor's office that was something of note, I would say.
Well, why don't you tell us about it? And then, I think it sort of explains what you do a little bit as a litigator, criminal attorney. But, fraud is pretty big in this economy. The courts are closed down. People think they can get away with things. We already have a regular report weekly from somebody who looks into employment backgrounds. And, this is a big problem right now because people think like there's such a backlog, they'll never get to me anyway. There's just too much going on. And even if they did catch me, it might be years before they ever prosecute me.
Right. That's exactly it. So back when I was a prosecutor, we had this particular case that just started off as just very benign. It was a person who was just trying to return some stuff that she has stolen. And then what happened was it was with the TJX company. And once essentially the employees started really looking into this situation, it turned out to be a multi-state scheme. And what was going on was they were essentially doctoring different receipts. So they were buying an item and they were stealing an item. And there was a group of these. There was a couple of families involved. They were all doing it together. And they went so specific in terms of really researching how different TJX companies, so it was a Marshalls or a TJ Maxx.
Home goods.
Yes, home goods, right. And they would see how they would actually cross out the item on a returned item or if they would circle it. So what they were doing was they were purposely returning the same item twice. And you would say, well, no big deal. It just seems like an item, maybe an expensive item at TJ Maxx, couple $100. But these guys, just on the research that the loss prevention officer ended up giving me, they at least had $300,000 of these fraudulent returns.
Wow.
Absolutely insane. And then to go even further, then we had like an investigator to kind of look into their finances to kind of see what's going on. And these people were unemployed. It was multiple families. They got their children involved in it. They had multiple houses and driving luxury vehicles, and it really was kind of crazy, the extent of the fraud that it went. It just seemed like a normal, fraud purchase, couple $100, not a big deal, but then they really started digging into it. It took them years to kind of figure out the scheme because what they were doing is they were going throughout New England to different stores to do this. They were very smart. It took them a long time to really realize the extent of the fraud.
Can you imagine with the brain power of being able to do a scheme like this, if they put this brain power to better use productively in our system? It's amazing,
Marc, that's funny. My stepfather used to say to me, if you're smart and you work hard enough, you should always be honest. There's no reason to ever do anything differently. But, Jason, I'm wondering how many years this went on and what was the penalty for these people? Because, the white collar crime is kind of funny sometimes.
So a lot of them ended up getting indicted. That was like the big thing. And there was kind of different penalties for different people. I mean, the truth is probably they didn't really know the true extent of how long this went on for, but they had on the books for at least a couple of years. And certainly, I don't think they knew exactly how much money was stolen. So, some people went to prison, some people got probation. And it was sad because a lot of their children were involved, who were at that point teenagers, but you really think about it, it was the beginning of the crime. Well, they were probably a lot younger than that, and they were stealing items. Some of them were helping with fraudulent returns, and they had it all documented with videos and all those things. So it was a really sad situation given the age of some of the people involved, and obviously the younger people got lesser sentences. But it was kind of a sad situation at the end.
And
How
was
was
this
it
the case?
uncovered, Jason?
I'm sorry?
How was it uncovered? How was the whole scheme uncovered?
Yeah, and that's just kind of comes down to people doing their job. It went for a long time undiscovered, and it was really one loss prevention officer who, credit to him, just really kind of kept following the breadcrumbs. And as we say in the fraud world, you follow the money, usually you find out how the scheme is happening. So that's what he ended up doing. He had years of records.
You said the fraud prevention officer. Was this like a TJ Maxx employee who found it?
Yes, that's what it was. He worked for the corporate office, so it was a little bit easier for him because each store has their own. But for him, he essentially would have the ability to go between stores to really uncover the extent of the crime.
Wow.
You know what's amazing is that as you started telling Jeff about some people got probation, some people got different sentences, but you're not hearing the same kind of sentences that somebody would get if they had a felony, or I mean, these would be a felony, but in a white collar crime versus a physical crime, like somebody in assault and battery or whatever, something more of a violent crime. And people think, oh, it's not a big deal because of the insurance involved, but it really does affect so many things. People don't realize crimes like this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and Mark, now you understand why when you go buy a pair of socks, it's $14, right? Because it does have an effect. It's and I think a lot of companies kind of work that into their prices for everyone. So it is a big deal. Insurance is not free. It's something that we all pay for. So ultimately, where it's not something that was just a one-time mistake, it was seen very seriously. These schemes in terms of frauds really hurt our economy and hurt each person. So I think it is a big deal and people see it in a different light.
Mark doesn't spend $14 on socks. We don't have to do an audit on that one. Mark's wife gets him a deal on socks, and she's not spending $14 a pair, or she's punishing him.
He doesn't need socks now, right? I mean, he's just at home, so.
I only wear sports socks, and boy, I have good ones, but they're not $14 a pair. I don't know where Jason's shopping. Boy, oh boy, Jason.
No, not me. My wife. My wife. I don't know. I have any idea where we get our socks. That's a good question. They just kind of show up magically.
Well, I have to say, my dad used to buy cashmere socks from England in the 1970s for $50 a pair, so I shouldn't talk. So, but that was my dad, not me.
I'll tell you this, I think is it Bombas. I mean, these companies now, obviously when people are staying at home, they're really talk about the price of socks and people's comfort. But you're right, it's like the clothes fairy just shows up. These are your I'm fortunate about that too. But
there's the old-fashioned Mark Z coming out. The clothes fairy shows up. I haven't seen the clothes fairy since I was 6 years old.
Well, I'm very fortunate. I'm married to somebody who's like a bionic woman who does it all. But just cutting back. I mean, again, talk about obviously insurance costs. Everything costs with a price tag. I mean, as Jeff knows, my father used to have used to be actually, full disclosure, a senior vice president of Zare, which was the predecessor for TJ Maxx. And I remember, and he had a chain of stores that were acquired by TJ Maxx and Zare. And I remember that was one of the first things my father taught me. He introduced me to the chief of police of Warwick, Rhode Island, who ran the store's security. And he took me to the jail in Warwick, and he said, this is what happens to criminals, because people just don't understand. But hopefully, it's not just the price that they pay ultimately, it's just being indicted and what they have to go through for what they did.
Yeah, definitely. And especially now, back to earlier, we were saying, Jeff, especially now, the court system is so bogged down. We're so behind in everything. If one of these cases land you in jail, who knows when you're going to go to trial? And I think Marc was talking earlier. Oof, I mean, it could be over a year. It's nuts.
And the court and the states don't want to send anyone to jail because of COVID. So even if it took years, right now they don't want to. They're trying to take everybody out of jail, not put people in it right now. So it's a different time, and I'm glad that both of you could report in on this. We'll start with Marc Z, and we'll end with a strong kick. Marc Z, if someone's looking for you, how would they find you?
Well, thank you for
besides the local jail.
That's where we stay out of, even in Marc Z Legal. Although we have the pleasure of working with very top talented people like Jason, which we've been honored to work with. First of all, go to Marc Z Legal, marczlegal.com, and 617-338-1300.
And Jason, outside of the TJ Maxx sock department, how are we going to find you?
Yeah, I haven't been shopping much myself, but so you can call me directly, 781-343-1384. And my email is Jason, Jason, @attorney, ATTORNEYCHAN.com, Jeff. Thank you.
Well, both of you got to come back. We got to do another sock caper of some form and remind everybody this is Radio Entrepreneurs. We've been speaking with Jason Chen and Marc Z. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back after this short message.